ニコニコ動画コースの歌を聞いた？大好き。
まだ歌を聞いていない。名前は何
6少年と一夜物語。とても人気があるよ。聞きましょうか。
The
song you hear in the background is by an unofficial group called the Nico Nico Chorus. This was mainly compiled by singers among the website, who record their own renditions of the original song. In a way, this song shows how far J-pop has come along. J-pop was born around 1988. It was formerly called Kayokyoku before it had this adaptation. Popular mainly among youth. Elders mainly listened to enka, which is traditional pop music. Post-World War II, many Japanese teens were exposed to American pop music. This is most likely due to parties at the time. At first, Japanese singers sang renditions of the American pop music, but then they made their own songs such as Ue Muite Aruko. During the modernization of Japan, the Beatles started to become prominent in Japan without any delay compared to the other countries. This counterculture started to influence the younger generation, which soon formed rock and roll groups called group sounds. This style of music also affected how the culture ultimately changed. There were noticeably new styles of clothing, mainly t-shirts and jeans seen on college students, and new anti-war folk music, mainly led by Takuro Yoshida and Shigeru Izumiya. Happy End was considered a more sophisticated version of group sound and wasn't folk-centric. 1970s was called new music. Happy End broke up, and the members went on their own paths. Each had a certain amount of influence on J-pop. Takashi Matsumoto was a songwriter and ultimately polished the lyrics of many songs. Ichi Otaki's first album, A Long Vacation, was essentially the backbone of J-pop. The presence of J-pop internationally became present around the 1980s. J-pop was still influenced by many styles of music post-1980. Hikaru Utada's music was mainly influenced by R&B, soul music, and hip-hop, and with a bilingual background, she was able to cater to the American society while she lived in New York. J-pop has now been influencing many countries such as Cambodia and Sweden. The original Japanese songs often have renditions of another nation's singer.
ポップの歌の中で6少年と一夜物語が一番好きだった。でも絶望ビリーの方が6少年と一夜物語より好き。聞いた？
まだ歌を聴いてない。誰が歌っている？
マキシマム・ザ・ホーモン。デスノートでその歌を使っていたから聞いたと思った。
本当ですか？ J-ROCK をあまり聞いていないから私は知らない。
今聞きましょうか。Japanese rock music, or J-rock, began in the 1960s with imitations and covers of bands like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, etc. These groups became known as group sounds, as mentioned earlier in this video. Group sounds were short-lived, however, as the 1970s brought synthesizers and other more electronically based sounds, which merged into the blossoming rock music genre to form the electro-rock subgenre. Other subgenres from the 1970s include psychedelic rock, pop rock, and others. In the 1980s, musicians began to claim the looks of popular glam bands such as Kiss, and the musical stylings of more heavy bands such as Metallica, to create a new musical movement unique to Japan called Visual Kei. The originators of the visual kei J-rock movement is a band called X Japan, who combined the guitarist's beautician career and wild shredding to create a massive musical sensation that continued on into the 1990s and influenced the domestic metal scene. Unfortunately, X Japan's grip on J-rock ended in 1997 when the band decided to disband. A year later, lead guitarist Matsumoto Hideto, better known as Hide, committed suicide. Past the 90s, J-rock became a much more successful genre, even going international. It is largely recognized and used in anime, usually action-oriented anime, as opening and closing songs, such as Asian Kung Fu Generation's Haruka Kanata as the opening for Naruto, Tommy Heavenly Six's Paper Moon as the opening for Soul Eater, and Maximum the Hormones' Zetsubo Billy as the ending for Death Note and the backing track for this section of the video. In Japan, the metal genre of music is split among those in favor of visual kei and the domestic music scene, and those in favor of more extreme metal and the international music scene. Those in favor of Japanese domestic metal are so engrossed with the numerous amounts of bands like X Japan and other visual kei bands such as Malice Miser and Versailles that they may be unaware of the international bands like Metallica and Megadeth, while those who favor the international scene are aware of the domestic scene but may not think of it as heavy enough to be true metal.